Hey there, my name's Ryan, and thank you so much for being here. Thanks for spending some time together as we talk about practical tools for parents in the digital age. It's my hope that after spending some time today, you'll walk away with many, many tools that will help you succeed if you, like me, find yourself in these early stages of this crazy parenting journey where parenting meets technology. I'm right in the middle of this with you. I have 3 kids at home, 9, 6, and 2. And as you can imagine, my oldest can't wait to jump in feet first. My wife and I are not so sure. We're not sure he's ready. But I think the ideas, the strategies, the practical advice that we talk about today can be used by anyone really, but I think they're going to be most beneficial to parents who have kids who are about to enter the world of social media, social gaming, online access, and other social connections. So over the next few minutes, I want to cover a few different things. First, I want to give you a framework, a practical tool to have good conversations at home. Second, I want to give you 10 practical things you can do as soon as you get home to help your family navigate technology well. And third, I want to help you learn. I want to help you learn how for yourself, for all those devices that you have, how to set up and configure them so that they work for your family when it comes to technology. And then I want to highlight one go-to resource for parents that I think you don't want to miss. It's one that I go back to often. And at the very end, I want to give you a reminder of what's most important. So let's jump in. At this point, I probably would be good to remind you that it would be impossible to cover all that you need to know or to set appropriate parental controls on every device that you have. Think about how many devices connect to the internet in your home. There's iPhones, Android phones, Mac laptops, PC laptops, Chromebooks, all 8 different versions of the Kindle. PS4s, Xbox Ones, Nintendo Switches, Wii U's, 3DSs, Apple TVs, Roku's, DVR boxes, your smart TV, Netflix, YouTube apps, and Hulu, just to name a few. As you can see, the sheer number is enough to make you dizzy as a parent. A video covering all the potential settings and options would be really long and probably really boring. But what this means is that we don't want to just skip over it. We want to give our kids appropriate ways to protect themselves. We want to protect our families in appropriate and realistic ways. And I think a great practical place to start is with what I call a family media agreement. Now, the key word here is communication, and good communication ahead of time. And so in my mind, the family media agreement is the starting line. And it's made up of 6 different points that you and your family can talk about ahead of time to get on the same page together so that everyone knows what to expect when it comes to technology. So let's work through the family media agreement together. First, the first question you answer together is where? Where do we use media together? Where do we use it separately? Where in our house do we use media? What is expected ahead of time? The second point on the agreement is when. When do we typically use media during the day? When do we use it or not use it at night? What about during the week or on the weekend? The next stop on the family media agreement is who. Who do we use digital media with? Who do we use it without? Family, friends, teammates at school? Who do we use media with? Next is work. And this is the one that I think gets to parents a little bit. But talk ahead of time. Where and when do we do work? What places and time are devoted to work at home? And how are those distinct from other times that we find ourselves using our devices? And that leads me to number 5. Number 5 is play. Oftentimes we find that we do our work and our play on the same devices. So how are these different? Talk ahead of time about the expectations that you have for your family and come to an agreement. And then number 6 is routines. And routines kind of goes back to the previous points. And it really allows you to build some consistent family rituals. Family rituals with media that you can put on your family calendar. Some examples of these might be one family told me about a one screen time. One screen time. Everyone watching the same screen at the same time. No other devices allowed. Maybe it was a movie or a video game. Maybe it's a routine would be developing guidelines for using tech in the car. Maybe you want to set those first 5 minutes aside ahead of time as non-tech times, so you can have those important "how was your day" conversations. Or maybe you want to designate a box or a basket or a bowl to use for your digital devices at home during specific times. Think dinner time. That's the one I get a little in trouble for. Bedtime. And parents, you got to participate with this. So, okay, once you have a family media agreement in place, you're ready to jump into some practical steps to help your family navigate this world of digital media safely. So let's jump in. First is wade in slowly. What's the rush? My 9-year-old is right in the middle of this. Like I said earlier, he can't wait to jump in, but we have decided to wade in slowly. We've decided the best first step for him is using the Facebook platform for kids. It's limited access. I get to approve who he has connections with. He gets to practice what appropriate times to message, what courteous norms are. And so before you turn it all on for them, remember you're the parent. You get to wade in slowly. I want to point out here too, it's also important that you support the use policy of all the major platforms, which as of the recording and being here today with you, is 13. So if you have a kid under 13 who's begging you and telling you that all his friends have Facebook, they shouldn't and they probably don't. Next is ask questions. When they want something new, a new app or a new platform, ask some good questions. Why do you want that? What kind of privacy will you have on that platform? Will you be using that as yourself or as an avatar or as someone who's anonymous? What kind of interaction will you be having with other individuals? And what do you think, most important, what do you think would be appropriate or inappropriate use of that app or that game or that platform? And it's worth pointing out here that you're the parent. Remember that. You're the parent. So you can always say, hey, you know what, give me 24 hours. And then you go download the app and you see what it's all about. Number 3 is talk about it often. Studies show that kids who talk regularly about this stuff, about the dangers and pitfalls of online interactions, they actually, they demonstrate typically lower risk for those dangers. And I get it, this can be slightly awkward, and for sure it needs to be age appropriate. But it can really help when something truly does come up to have talked through that already. What will the response be? Number 4, it can start out as a fun one, taking screenshots. I talked to one mom who practiced with her daughter sending screenshots back and forth, just of funny things they came across in their day. It was a true way of connecting them. But what it was doing was building a routine for later on. When her daughter would see things, maybe a text message that was a little questionable, she would screenshot that and send it to her mom to start a conversation with them. So build a habit of taking screenshots. Number 5 is utilize an internet filter. I don't really feel comfortable recommending any one filter. There's several very good ones out there, but what I will say is this. Make sure your filter is at the router level, so that it can filter all of the internet coming into your home. Make sure it's just not on a device, but make sure it's at the router level. You want to filter at the router level. And while we're here, I'll point out that a router filter, a content filter, is most important, I think, for our youngest kids, who very unintentionally can stumble upon something. I'm guilty. The iPhone is a great babysitter for my 2-year-old when I just got to get something done. But if I'm not careful, if I don't realize what I'm putting in her hands, I could be putting an unfiltered device in her hands that could potentially have her navigate, because she can use an iPhone really well. It could leave her navigating to content that would be extremely inappropriate. So make sure you have a filter. Number 6 is expect transparency. I'm going to come back to this theme again and again. You're the parent. You get to go through their feeds. You get to go through their feeds. Do it regularly, tip, so there's less to go through, right? You want to have less to go through. But at the end of the day, you're the parent. You get to see what's on their feeds. Build a rhythm of checking that often. Number 7, again, is one I'm guilty of. Set screen limits. I know it's much quieter at my house when all 3 of my kids get to have screen time. It's near silent. But if your kids are like mine, they would sit and watch those screens all day long. They're terrible at self-regulating. If I'm honest, I'm kind of terrible at self-regulating at times too. But refer back to that family media agreement. Talk about how much screen time you'll be having together, how long, where will it be? And then set controls and step in, and again, be the parent for your kids when it comes to screen limits. Number 8 is location, location, location. And one more time, we're going to go back to that family media agreement. Where ahead of time do you access technology? Talk about that. Understand that. I find very little reason for a computer to be in a private bedroom. The potentially harmful content that could be accessed is not outweighed by the very little benefit that I see of having a private computer or a private phone in a private bedroom. Number 9 is family sharing. Beyond the benefit of sharing apps that you buy with your whole family, family sharing allows you to approve the app purchases that your kids are requesting. You get to see what they download, you get to see what it is, and you get to approve it or decline it, and that really is a great way of elevating conversations. So both Apple and Google have this family share feature. Make sure you know how to use that. You can go online to Google and search how to set that up, and you can set that up very easily for you and the other devices in your home. And finally, my last practical tip is to get into their world. Use the apps they like. Play the games they like. Find out what interests them. It's the best way to see what's amiss when something doesn't seem just right, because you're familiar with what they like and what their world is like. All right, you're probably wondering, okay, great, Ryan, but how do I lock my kid's phone down? And it's a great question. But if you've been following along, you know that I probably will encourage you not to put all your eggs in that basket. However, it is critical. And so I want to walk you through what my process is for devices in my home and how I make sure that my kids are protected on the devices they get to access. Remember back to that list of devices I gave you, that super long one? A video walking through every single scenario would be very long, and in a month or two it would be totally out of date. So instead, here's what I do. First, start with a list of all the devices in your home that connect to the internet, that can get content from the internet. And then what I want you to do is I want you to work through that list one at a time, and I want you to use 3 websites. I want you to use Google, WikiHow, or YouTube. And I want you to one by one work through your devices and figure out how to configure the settings for that device. I find the most helpful is to use WikiHow. It has a clear step-by-step set of directions for you. But one word of warning here, when I searched how to set parental controls on my iPhone, an article came back, very helpful. But the next article was how to get around parental control devices on my iPhone. So be aware that this is not a first line of defense. For sure, we want to have them set up. But don't be naive to the fact that our kids are getting pretty good at figuring out how to get around these. And so if it's your first line of defense, it just won't be effective. One of the best resources that you can head to is this website, commonsensemedia.org. Bookmark this site. Keep it handy. It's full of app, movie, game, TV show, website reviews. When your child comes to you with that new app they just have to download, and you have no idea what they're even saying, it doesn't sound like English, visit commonsensemedia.org, and they'll have a review, and they'll tell you what parents think, what kids think, and what their recommendation, and they'll unpack it for you. Bookmark it and keep that website handy. Now, obviously, what we've covered today is not everything you need to know about parental controls, being a great parent, setting boundaries for your kids, or the latest technology. But what we talked about today is some of the things that I think are most important. But if you forget everything I covered up to this point, being a parent today is hard. And I want you to remember this. Your best tool is knowledge. Get involved with your kids. Get involved with the apps that they love. Get involved with the platforms they play on. And develop good rhythms of communication. And then prepare your response ahead of time for when your kid eventually will make mistakes. So you can have a response ready that leaves your relationship with them intact. If you're looking for additional information about laying a good foundation, I'd love to send you to teenesteem.org, where you'll find lots of different videos for parents just like you. And one of the videos I love for you to watch is called Building a Solid Foundation for Parenting in the Digital Age. I think it'll be very helpful. But now I just want to say thank you for letting me be here, and good luck as you head into this crazy world of parenting and technology.